You know that feeling, right? It is 2 in the morning, and the house is just completely quiet.
Oh, yeah. The classic 2 a.m. stare down with the ceiling.
Exactly. You are wide awake, just staring up. And what are you doing? You are endlessly replaying this, like, totally random conversation you had with a coworker 3 years ago.
Or you're lying there with your heart racing over a massive decision for an upcoming project.
Yes, a decision that is entirely 100% in someone else's hands. I mean, we have all been there. It is just this exhausting, relentless mental loop.
And the crazy thing is, your brain is basically treating a memory or some uncontrollable future event as an active physical threat.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, you are lying in a safe, quiet room, but your nervous system is pumping out cortisol and adrenaline as if there is a literal predator right outside your bedroom door.
That is wild to think about. You're sweating, you're stressed, but you haven't moved an inch.
Right. You are putting in all this intense psychological effort trying to, retroactively win an old argument or preemptively control a boardroom. But you aren't actually altering reality.
And I feel like this 2 a.m. scenario is basically the ultimate trap of holding on too tightly. We kind of trick ourselves into believing that by agonizing over something, we are somehow managing it.
Like worry is a form of productivity.
Exactly. But the central tension we are unpacking today challenges that exact illusion. So, welcome to episode 1 of this new series where we are diving straight into the core concepts from Nick Trenton's book, The Art of Letting Go. And I want to set the record straight right away. Letting go is not about quitting, is it?
Not at all. I mean, we have to completely redefine the term. When people hear letting go, the immediate visual is someone just walking away in defeat, surrendering.
Just throwing their hands up and walking out.
Right, exactly. But in practical neurological terms, letting go is the active, conscious release of attachment to variables that sit completely outside your control.
Okay, so what does that actually look like?
Well, we are talking about severing the emotional tether to other people's opinions or to past mistakes that have already happened and external circumstances that you just have zero physical capacity to change.
Okay, but I want to push back on that severing process a little bit.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about releasing attachment to external circumstances and other people's opinions, the line between genuinely letting go and just becoming, like, entirely apathetic seems dangerously thin to me.
I hear that a lot, actually.
Because if I stop caring about what my boss thinks, or if I refuse to stress over a totally chaotic situation at my company, aren't I just checking out? I mean, apathy feels like the opposite of power. It just feels like numbness.
Well, apathy is emotional flatlining. It is this state of universal non-caring. Basically, it's a defense mechanism where you shut down all engagement just to avoid pain.
Okay, so how is letting go different from that?
Letting go, on the other hand, is highly strategic resource allocation. It is drawing a definitive, really ruthless boundary between what we cannot control and what we absolutely can.
A ruthless boundary, I like that.
Yeah, and if you map out your actual locus of control, it is shockingly small. You control your own thoughts. You control your word choices. You control your emotional regulation and your immediate physical actions.
Wait, that's the whole list.
That is the entire list. Everything else, including your boss's mood or the macroeconomic climate, that all exists outside that boundary.
So, which means burning energy on the external stuff is just a literal waste of cognitive bandwidth. If a project fails and I immediately blame a vendor or I blame the economy, I might feel a fleeting sense of vindication, but I haven't solved anything.
No, you really haven't.
I've actually just handed my agency over to the vendor or the economy.
Exactly. You are engaging in a form of learned helplessness. By blaming the external factor, the subconscious message you send yourself is, they caused this, therefore only they can fix this.
Man, that kind of traps you in the passenger seat, doesn't it?
It does. But by letting go of the uncontrollable, like the vendor's mistake, and fiercely focusing all that freed up energy on the controllable, like your contingency plan, your pivot, you shift from a passive victim to an active agent. You take back the pen and you write the next sentence.
Regardless of whatever plot twist someone else threw at you.
Exactly.
There is this remarkably grounded analogy from Trenton's work that anchors this dynamic perfectly. Imagine you are sitting at a heavy oak desk, and right in the center of it is just a standard yellow wooden pencil.
Okay, I can picture it.
And your goal is to move that pencil using only your mind.
Which is physically impossible.
Right. But think about what happens when you try. You can stare at that pencil until your vision blurs. You can grit your teeth. You can get genuinely furious at the pencil for not moving.
Your heart rate elevates, you get stressed out.
Yeah, you generate massive amounts of internal friction. But that pencil is bound by the laws of physics. It will not move a single millimeter until you reach out and physically manipulate it with your hand.
And the cognitive load of trying to move that pencil with your mind perfectly mirrors the psychological load of trying to manipulate outcomes you cannot physically control.
Which we do all the
We
time.
do it every day. We try to mind control our partners into understanding us without actually communicating. We try to mind control the traffic on the highway by just getting angry at it.
Right, just gripping the steering wheel tighter.
Yes, and it generates immense internal suffering and anxiety with zero external yield.
Because the friction is entirely contained inside your own skull. And this brings us to a specific, super high-stakes arena where this mental pencil pushing is completely epidemic. Career ambition and the trap of perfectionism.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we treat perfectionism like a humble brag, right? Like, oh, my biggest flaw is that my standards are just too high. But under the hood, perfectionism is actually brutal.
It really is. Perfectionism is, at its core, a desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable. When you demand a flawless outcome, what you are actually trying to do is guarantee how other people will perceive you.
You're trying to build an impenetrable armor against criticism or rejection.
Right. But because human perception is subjective and external factors are unpredictable, a perfect outcome is a statistical impossibility.
And the brain recognizes that, doesn't it?
It does, which is why perfectionism so often results in total paralysis. The amygdala perceives the potential for less than perfect as a literal threat, and it shuts down your ability to take action.
Because you can't fail the launch if you never launch the product.
Exactly. This is where Trenton introduces the antidote, which is a concept called excellentism.
Okay, let's define the mechanics of excellentism.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like the immediate cynical reaction to letting go of perfectionism is the fear that we are just rebranding mediocrity. Like, if I am an excellentist, am I just lowering my standards and accepting a B-minus life?
Not remotely. Excellentism is the shift from a brittle system to an anti-fragile
What
system.
do you mean by brittle?
Well, perfectionism is brittle. The moment a flaw is introduced, the entire structure just shatters. Excellentism maintains exceptionally high standards. You are still aiming for the absolute best possible outcome, but the metric of success is relocated.
Okay, relocated to where?
Instead of success being defined as a flawless final destination, success is defined by forward momentum, iteration, and growth.
So the standard doesn't drop, but your relationship to friction changes. Like, in a perfectionist framework, a mistake is a catastrophe. It's an indictment of who you are. But in an excellentist framework, a mistake is just data.
It is real-time telemetry. If you're launching a business, perfectionism tells you to spend 3 years hiding in your garage, refining the product until it's immune to criticism.
Which is impossible.
Right. Excellentism tells you to build a highly functional prototype, release it, gather user feedback, and iterate. When a user points out a flaw, you don't spiral into shame. You use that data to improve the next version. Progress is prioritized over an impossible standard.
Which means we can actually start. We can send the rough draft. We can have the difficult conversation without scripting every single word perfectly in our heads first.
Yes, exactly.
But, okay, we need to address a very stubborn reality here. Understanding the logic of excellentism, understanding that we shouldn't try to mind control the pencil, makes perfect rational sense. But human beings are not purely rational.
No, we are definitely not.
We fundamentally resist change. Even when our current habits are making us miserable, the brain just clings to them.
Because the brain is a prediction machine that is optimized for energy conservation. Familiar is interpreted as safe, even if the familiar thing is highly stressful.
Wow, even if it's hurting us.
Yeah. When you try to adopt a new mindset like excellentism, you are forcing the brain to forge entirely new neural pathways. That requires immense metabolic energy. So to navigate this resistance, we have to map out the psychological terrain of transition, which is often called the emotional cycle of change.
Okay, let's break these stages down. It happens in 5 distinct stages, right?
Yes, 5 stages.
Starting with stage 1, uninformed optimism.
Yeah.
This is like the dopamine rush.
It is the conceptual phase. You read a book or you listen to a deep dive like this one and you imagine the benefits of the change. You visualize yourself no longer stressing over your boss's emails.
You feel totally liberated.
Right, but it is uninformed because you haven't yet paid the physical or psychological toll of actually doing the hard work. You're just coasting on the high of the idea.
But the novelty always wears off, which brings us to stage 2, informed pessimism. I kind of think about this like learning a highly complex new software system for your job.
Oh, that's a great example.
Let's say you've used the same clunky program for 10 years, and suddenly the company switches to something incredibly modern and powerful. On day one, uninformed optimism, you're thrilled about the new features. But by day four, informed pessimism has definitely set in.
You can't figure out how to do anything.
Right. A task that used to take you 5 minutes is now taking an hour. The dopamine crashes, cortisol spikes, and you start questioning if the upgrade was actually a terrible mistake.
That software analogy is perfect because it highlights the friction of incompetence. In stage 2, the cost of the change becomes painfully apparent, but the benefits are still totally theoretical.
And then the friction gets worse.
It naturally deepens, plunging you directly into stage 3, which is the valley of despair.
The valley of despair, where good intentions go to die.
It really is the absolute bottom of the cycle. Neurologically, this is where you experience an extinction burst. Your old neural pathways, your old habits of perfectionism or rumination, they are literally fighting for their survival.
So your brain is screaming at you to just go back to baseline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The effort feels unbearable, the discomfort is at its absolute maximum, and you cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is the stage where the vast majority of people abandon the new habit and just revert to their old ways.
You are just stuck in the messy middle. The initial excitement is gone. Nobody is patting you on the back anymore, and you haven't unlocked the efficiency of the new software yet. You're just drowning in error messages.
Yep, that's the valley.
So if someone is sitting in that valley right now listening to this, and their brain is telling them to just give up, how do they bridge the gap? Because sheer willpower is a finite resource. It runs out.
Willpower will absolutely fail you in the valley. What is required here is a combination of radical perseverance and a deeply anchored future vision.
So you have to know your why.
You have to clearly define the why behind the change before you even enter the valley, so you can call upon it when that extinction burst happens. You have to remind yourself, I am experiencing this extreme discomfort now so that I don't spend the next 10 years lying awake at 2 a.m.
You use that vision to basically pull yourself forward step by painful step. You need a compass because the immediate terrain is just fog.
And if you keep walking, you eventually hit stage 4, informed optimism.
Okay, so what happens here?
This is where neuroplasticity starts working in your favor. The new neural pathways are becoming insulated, the signals are moving faster, the new software workflow suddenly clicks, and you realize you just finished a project in half the time.
The change is no longer just a theory.
Right, you have empirical data proving that it works. The heavy lifting is mostly behind you.
The fog lifts, and you actually see the shoreline, which naturally leads into the final phase, stage 5, success and fulfillment. The new behavior isn't a struggle anymore, it's just the new baseline.
You've successfully rewired the system. And the profound value of understanding this 5-stage framework is that it strips away the panic of the valley of despair.
How so?
Well, when you hit that wall, when you feel that intense desire to give up, you don't have to interpret it as a personal failure anymore. You can recognize the mechanism and say, oh, my brain is just throwing an extinction burst. I am in stage 3. It normalizes the suffering.
It turns an emotional crisis into a predictable data point. I love that. So, to bring all of this out of the theoretical and into the immediate, let's establish a tactical micro-habit. For the person who is dealing with an overwhelming situation today, maybe a massive financial stressor or a failing project, how do they apply this?
Let's utilize the analogy we established earlier. The next time you feel the physical symptoms of overwhelm, the tight chest, the racing thoughts, I want you to physically stop. Pause whatever you are doing.
Okay.
Mentally, or even on a piece of paper, divide your immediate stressors into 2 distinct categories: the pencil and the hand.
Okay, define the parameters of those categories real quick.
The pencil contains everything you cannot physically alter. It is the vendor's delay, the market fluctuation, your coworker's passive-aggressive tone, the mistake you made yesterday.
Right.
The hand contains your immediate locus of control. It is your breathing rate, your posture, the exact words you're about to type in an email, and your attitude toward the challenge.
So what do we do once we've categorized them?
Your job is simple. Drop the pencil. Stop burning cognitive fuel trying to mind control inanimate objects. Instantly shift 100% of your focus and physical energy into the hand. Operate exclusively within your zone of agency.
It's basically an immediate pattern interrupt. You catch yourself glaring at the pencil, and you consciously redirect that intensity to your own grip.
Exactly. And when you weave that practice together with the philosophy of excellentism, you realize that holding too tightly and ruminating upon mistakes serves no purpose in real time.
Because the past is a pencil. You can't move it.
Right. They are strictly meant to be used as lessons for the hand in the present moment. If you are gripped by shame over a failure, you are frozen. You aren't adapting, you are just choosing to suffer.
Which really crystallizes the core realization of this entire deep dive. Letting go of the uncontrollable is not apathy. It is the ultimate tactical maneuver. As long as you are trying to move the pencil with your mind, you are a victim of its immobility. The second you drop it and focus entirely on your own hand, you become the author of whatever happens next.
You step out of the illusion of control and into the reality of influence. Letting go is just the mechanism by which we exercise that choice.
But remember, as you implement this, as you actively practice dropping the pencil and focusing on the hand, your brain's prediction machine is going to fight back. Progress is rarely linear.
Oh, absolutely.
You will have days where you slide right back into the valley of despair, days where you find yourself awake at 2 a.m. trying to retroactively win an argument from 3 years ago. And you know what? That is completely fine. The target is excellentism, not perfectionism. Gather the data, iterate, and refocus on the hand.
Celebrate those small victories when you do catch yourself.
Definitely. But as we wrap up this deep dive into reclaiming your cognitive bandwidth, I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own. We've established that letting go of the uncontrollable is the key to taking your power back. It frees you from exhaustion.
It does.
But if that's true, it raises a deeply uncomfortable question. If letting go gives you all your power back, what is the one thing you are currently stressing over that you would actually be terrified to let go of? Think about that. Keep your eyes on the hand and make sure to like and subscribe to get notified about the next episode. We will see you next time.